Oh my God, we made it.
We made it.
A live show, folks. So
this is not a recording from July. I don't know what was going on yesterday.
Not a recording from July.
We went through a time machine. I went over to California for 5 minutes, came back here in Arizona. I was completely disoriented. I'm like,
how many times in the chat?
My neighbor knocked on my door. She thought I was home. That's how weird it got.
How many times in the chat was I saying, this is a re-upload, yes.
Oh, dear
This
God.
is a re-upload, yes. This is a re-upload, yes.
I should have predicted some sort of sports outcomes, and then I could have looked like a genius, you know?
No kidding, but you know what? It's nice having a birthday twice a year.
You kept having birthday thanks. That was great.
I know.
When was that, Eric? Was that July? That
yeah,
show?
but since it was my birthday, it's like, now I know exactly when it was. July 8th is my birthday.
Oh, July 8th. Okay, right.
January 3rd is not my birthday. My sister's birthday is the 6th, so we'll pretend that I was just hijacking her birthday early.
Right. I got you. Yeah.
All right, Amnuk, I know that the airplane in the thumbnail is backward. I did a mirror flip because the plane in its path was not flying toward Oregon. It was flying toward Arizona. So I really wanted it to go the proper direction, and I did a flip on it, but that plays hell with the graphics, if you will. So I'm sorry. Really wanted cool looking graphics, so I cheated to put it in the nicest possible way.
That's outrageous.
I know it's shameful. It's shameful.
You know what you are? You're a thumbnail cheater, bro.
Yeah, you know, if we get a lot of money, maybe I'll just be able to hire it out and get a professional to do it.
How do the other channels do it? One woman complained in the comments there weren't enough graphics and videos and photos.
What?
She was complaining there wasn't enough visuals.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, yes, you're right. 320 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Got a new member, JC. Let everybody know. I deeply appreciate the memberships. We really don't do anything membership wise. That's why I keep it to only $3 here. It's just super helpful for supporting us. If you want to get more and more content, interact, please consider locals. It's $5 a month. It's not, that much more, but it gives everybody, I think, a whole lot more value. And that's why
I put secret documents on locals. That's how good it is. Personal secret documents. So you're not going to know about it now. I'm not even going to mention it until you get in there.
We've got even more.
I put screenplays in there. I put my book. I put Oswald. I mean, we put a lot of weird stuff up there, Eric.
Yep. And more to come. The more we can grow the locals, the more we can actually put into that, including after I can get to the 500 point, hopefully I can upload commercial-free episodes of everything that I'm doing. So that's kind of the big goal. It gives more space. And hello, Michael Doring. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Doring. Thank you.
How many lives have you lived?
We're adoring Michael Doring.
How many lives?
You know what? It's just been one long rainbow of a life. I don't know. Sometimes I stop in the middle. There are periods of my life where I just went, the hell's going on? How did I get into this goddamn mess? But after like 40 years of it, as Busha knows, the detective, maybe I should have been a detective. I don't know. I'll tell you this. This is the mistake I made. There's two mistakes. One was my parents had a set of encyclopedias. It only went to 1939. It said Adolf Hitler, current chancellor of Germany. So up until 1939, I was a genius. There was nothing after 1939. So I kept reading this 35-volume set of the World Book that went to 1939. And at one point, I read about the Renaissance, and I got enamored at the age of 14 or 13 with the Renaissance. And I went to bed at night and I prayed and I said, God, please make me a Renaissance man when I grow up. Biggest mistake of my life.
That's funny. I grew up with the Encyclopedia Britannica 1970 version. So it is interesting. Right. So Vietnam hadn't really gone on that long.
Right. It was fascinating. I killed in history unless it went to 1940. Then I was a complete idiot.
That and of course the Time Life little books, I was, all spot up on every kind of reptile and I could go outside and compare it.
Right.
Or a lot of them.
Right. But the
But
Renaissance man thing, I made a pact with the devil, I think, because I became a guy who did a million different things instead of one thing, like a brain surgeon and specialized. I ended up having 77 different lives of doing completely, non-connected things. But now I guess they're all becoming connected again. So maybe there's a happy ending.
okay, and why is locals only Eric's? Technically, it's called unstructured.locals.com. It is not only mine. Mark and I do split it 50-50, but everything I do, which is 3 shows, is related to the locals. So you could think about it if you're coming from here, that you're doing one show and you get a couple bonus shows for free, or whatever. But that's how it's breaking down. I couldn't just go and rename or try to do whatever. So unstructured is kind of an umbrella over everything that I'm doing.
That's my attorney, by the way, Eric. Hey, Harry.
Hey, Harry.
Hey, Harry Rothstein. Hey, Harry Rothstein.
Let's
My
see.
Mark. Okay, let me tell you something. This camping story, which I'm going to tell you right now, which actually is in Kings Canyon National Park, where I do go camping a lot, ends up being part of the story. And you will see why this becomes part of the story in this camping story. I do a lot of camping. There's no doubt about it. Nobody ever goes with me. Sometimes they show up, but I don't care. I'll go by myself. I'm so happy I got all the bells and whistles at camping, and I'll sit around the fire at night telling myself stories if I have to. I just like camping. But this story that we're going to tell you has a lot of outdoor stuff to it, so it'll be
this story. This is about this guy here.
Yeah, this guy here, David Steeves, who this is him in high school. Unbelievably, he was a freshman in high school who was a star quarterback on the varsity.
Wait, that's his freshman picture?
That's yeah. I mean, this guy was 200 pounds, 6 feet tall. And at the age of 15, his family, they're from like Trumbull, Connecticut, I think. And his family were deeply religious, evangelical Christians. They sent him to
Calvinists, maybe from up that area.
They didn't say Calvinists. I don't really know if there's Calvinists up in Connecticut, but whatever is up there, that's what this guy was. I'm not sure what denomination, but I've read evangelical. But they sent him to a Christian camp in upstate New York when he was 15. He hitchhikes from the camp in upstate New York to Alaska without his parents knowing it. Gets jobs like on fishing boats all summer, becomes works at a gas station. He does like 5 different jobs that summer, and comes back to the original camp and tells his parents that he had the religion part was not really taking in him that his parents wanted. And he was beginning in that era. You're talking about 1952, 53, 54. I mean, this is when rock and roll is coming. This is when James Dean is coming. Kids are rebelling, Eric.
Sure.
There's a lot of rebellion going on. And he marries his high school sweetheart, who ends up looking like Marilyn Monroe. I mean, this is a girl who was a junior in high school when he was a senior, grew up with her. Rita, I think her name was Rita Stedham or something, but he marries her right out of high school, and he enrolls in the Air Force and is sent to a base in Mobile, Alabama, from what I remember. And they have a kid, and he, years before, had gone to a local airport, and at the age of 15, lied about his age. At 16, lied about his age and began to get pilot training. And that's what he wanted to be, was a jet fighter pilot.
God, so he's a pilot before he even...
Yeah, at the age of 16, he was, right, he had flown solo at 16, Eric.
This guy is precocious as hell.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Insane.
I mean, his brother, who was older than him, said he was a physical specimen. He was like, a Greek god in the town. He just looked like a, absolutely perfect specimen of a human being at the age of, 18. So he goes down to Mobile, Alabama, and he becomes a pilot. And it turns out that he's such a Top Gun kind of pilot, he becomes a pilot trainer, and he takes his T-33, which is the right. This is the T. It says TR-272, but the
it is a T-33 though.
Right, that's a T-33. The T-33 is a two-seater version of the P-80, the first jet fighter plane that we used in the Korean War. And the P-80 is a one-seater. The T-33 is a two-seater for training purposes. And the P-80, the one that he's using, the TR-33, is called the Shooting Star. And he becomes, because he is a Top Gun Maverick pain in the ass, they reduce him to shuttling back and forth from San Francisco to Tucson to, what did we say that base was?
Phoenix, or not, Glendale, Arizona,
Phoenix.
which is my Phoenix.
Right, that airport.
Luke
What was it?
Air Force. Luke.
Oh, Luke Air Force Base. Right. Okay. So he becomes this guy who they don't want to make into a jet fighter pilot because he's such a rebel. And they're trying to teach him a lesson. So they keep having him shuttle these flights from Mobile, Alabama, Clark Air Force Base down there in Mobile. Does that sound right, Eric? Clark?
It could be. I'm not.
Okay. So maybe someone in the crowd knows, some retired. Here he is. Okay, this is at the age of 23. He saves up his money. He starts a side business of Simonizing cars, some sort of Simonizing wax business. He's got a newborn kid, and his wife's not happy about it. But he saves up his money separate from his lieutenant Air Force pay, which must have been something. I don't know. They got to pay you something, a lieutenant in the Air Force. And he buys an XKE Jaguar. So he's driving around smoking a pipe with his XKE Jaguar. And when he's in San Francisco, he goes to, from what I understand, and I've dug pretty deep into this story, he would go to the Black Hawk, which is a famous jazz club, and he would listen to Miles Davis. You know, this is in the early 50s. And this guy's like 22, 21 years old. He's now in San Francisco. His wife's in Mobile, Alabama. He goes to Vegas sometimes. He likes to gamble.
Yeah, he does look like he's in his 30s.
Absolutely looks like he's 35. The guy right here is 22 years old, maybe 21. Wow. I swear to God. I swear to God. And anyway, but he looked like, look what he looked like in high school, Eric.
I know.
I mean, that's why he ended up being on the varsity when he was.
No, he's the guy we would have sent to buy all the beer.
Right. And he probably was that guy, as a matter of fact. So anyway, he is a dapper, maverick, rebellious guy who is a Top Gun pilot who is in the doghouse. Let me just put it that way. He had taken up a captain, from what I read at one point. He took a captain up and he started doing nose dives and twirls, and the captain almost threw up, and he said, "You're dead to me." And because the captain was a captain, that was the initial offense that really put him into the Air Force doghouse in Mobile, Alabama. Now, that being said, he goes to he comes from Mobile and he flies to San Francisco, which is where we're going to go with this story. And he takes up the T-33 to fly it back to Mobile, and he's going to go to Phoenix, like we said, and he's going to go back to Mobile. Mm. And this is the route. And it's not like he's even delivering mail. I mean, this is the thing they're making him do almost to keep him busy, with his T-33. Now, keep in mind, the T-33 and the P-80 were designed and built at Skunk Works in Burbank, California, Eric. Mm. Now, Skunk Works came up once before because we know another guy who worked at Skunk Works, if you remember, in Burbank from another episode. So these are kind of tied together.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the cops, Manny P. Wait,
no.
Oh, no, the guy who Caesar.
Thane Eugene Caesar, the man who killed RFK, had top security.
It's only been a week since I heard the episode. Yeah, come on. It's a long
time.
No,
but it's just fascinating that this comes. I mean, it doesn't have any connection to this story, I don't think. But Thane Eugene Caesar had top security clearance.
So we'll call it a dot, and we don't connect them, but it's a dot.
No, it's just a weird dot. You do what you want with that dot. I don't even know what to make of that dot. But okay, so here's the triangle. Oh, very good. Yeah. So he would.
Oh, wait, I got to stop for this one. Thank you very much.
Tim Falk, my man.
That's a mic drop, and definitely worth interrupting.
If I had a mic, I'd drop it. Number one favorite podcast with Tim Falk with a bomb from left field. Okay, so you see this triangle? This triangle has to take him over the High Sierra Mountains, right? So he leaves on May 9th, 1957, 10:30 in the morning, roughly. Goes up, he's flying for about 30 minutes, and he starts to, he's just spacing out, going, this is great. Because this guy's been flying since he's 16, bro. Okay, so he's flying at like 33,000 feet. He's doing about 300 and 350 miles per hour. And all of a sudden, there's smoke in the cockpit, Eric. and he's not smoking a cigarette. Let me put it that way. The smoke fills up in the cockpit. He blacks out. And when he comes to, the plane is in a nosedive over the high Sierras, just going straight down. And he doesn't even remember how long he was unconscious. But he takes his feet off the pedals, tucks them under the seat like you're supposed to do, and begins to engage the ejector seat button, which, by the way, the ejector seat is 9 years old as an invention at this point.
The jet itself. I mean, you didn't really go into it.
Right. There's not even commercial.
New.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was used in 52 in the Korean War, the P-80. But you're talking about, right, this is a relatively new invention that very few people have mastered, and he's one of them. So he tucks in his feet, and he's
like the equivalent of an astronaut. Sorry to interrupt, but he's almost like astronaut level if you talk about skill.
Yeah, he's got the right stuff. Yeah, this is like right out of the right stuff. And this kid is 23, so he could conceivably, he's already teaching people how to fly jets at 23, Eric, and he's a lieutenant at 23. I mean, if you're a lieutenant at 23, where are you going to end up in the Air Force?
Well, that depends. The lieutenant's not that high.
He's 23 years old.
I know, but that's the first rank you get. You're second lieutenant, then first lieutenant.
Okay.
And then captain about 3 to 5 years. So 22, he's in college. I'm just saying it's not, lieutenants and not necessarily super high ranking. But
no, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying the sky was the limit for the guy until they put him into the doghouse. Okay. So he pushes the ejector button. He goes up, the plane goes past him, the canopy blows off. He doesn't take anything with him because he doesn't even have a survival kit. Mm-hmm. The chute opens up, and he could see that it's torn in 2 or 3 parcels of the chute. And because of that, he's afraid to pull the reins of the chute because he feels by turning it, it's going to tear more. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
Right. So he's looking down at the incredible frozen icicle tentacle giant pineapple points of the Sierra Madre Mountains that are filled with these cavernous canyons that are each one, according to the rangers, each one of these is as deep as the Grand Canyon, and there's thousands of these points, right? So that to there is the depth of the Grand Canyon, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these, and that's where he comes down on a ledge, like up here on the tippy top, Eric. I don't know if we could circle that up there.
Oh, right around in here.
Yeah. Up in one of those crevices, he lands. He kind of puts himself into a crevice. He lands on both his ankles, and because the chute is ripped, he knows he's going to come down hard, and he comes down really freaking hard. He sprains both his ankles. He doesn't know if they're broken or not. He's got heavy boots on. He's got a 32 caliber revolver that was given to him by his uncle, his grandfather. He has a hunting knife. He's got some matches, and he's got a Milky Way bar. Now figure out the rest of your life, because that's where he is.
And here's an idea for people to see. This is without. Now keep in mind
that's without the snow. Yeah,
but he landed. So this is an area that is hiked. But when he crashed, there was no hiking. All the trails were completely closed. Right. Nobody was out there. Right. It was 6 or 7 months out of season.
Yes. And I've been there in June, and it is just melting there in the late June. That's as early as you can go. Is early mid-June. I've been there that early. This is May 9th. You know what I mean? This is pretty early. So he doesn't see any trails whatsoever. And he takes his chute and he rolls it up into a ball, and he drops it down the cliff to see what happens. And the thing just bounces down the face of the mountain. And he decides to go down face first, Eric, because his ankles are shot, and he's got to get down because it's getting cold. And he sees like a cave-like snow drift that he could possibly tuck into about a mile down the face of this glacial cliff. And he slides face first for over a mile, okay? Straight down.
Wow.
And he's using his feet to dig in behind him to slow him down.
Feet.
Yeah. Completely insane. completely insane. But he has no choice because the sun is already starting to set and it's starting to get cold on top of the hill, and he's got to tuck himself in and try to start a fire. Yeah,
I think
that would be up there in the back.
This is July 4th, by the way, that this one was taken.
Right.
Look up there.
That's right. This is July 4th.
July
So
4th.
look what's going on up there. And see these lakes? There's thousands of these glacial lakes all through Kings Canyon National Park and all through the Sierras, the high Sierras. There's all these glacial lakes. Okay, which are really cold water, by the way, and deep. Nobody even knows how deep they are. So he slides down face first, and he gets to this little cubby hole, and he begins to assemble some wood and starts some kind of fire, you know, with his matches and some wet logs that are there. And he tucks himself in with his parachute and finally gets to go to sleep in this little cubby hole of a cave-like snowdrift. And that's how the first night ends for him on this mountain. And when he wakes up the next morning, his feet are completely swollen. He can't walk. He's eaten the Milky Way bar that he had, I think, is that night. That was the food that he had, was the Milky Way bar. And he looks over it and he sees all these different mountains, and he doesn't even know which way to go. But he stays there for 7 days because he feels they're going to look for him, and they are looking for him, and he doesn't want to move. So he stays like on the tippy top up here, wherever he is, and he's waiting for them to fly over. So they send out rescue, plane, and they find nothing. Absolutely nothing. No wreckage. They don't find his plane. They don't find him. The guys flying over said it was really difficult because you're flying at sea level, and then 10 feet later, you're flying at 10,000 feet to avoid a cliff. You know what I mean? Like
shooting everything too, though. He was way the hell away from his plane anyway. So even if they found it,
right,
I don't know if they would have found him. Right.
Right. Well, yeah, that's definitely true. Now keep in mind, he's only like 30 minutes out of Fresno. It's not like he got very far. He only flew for 30 minutes. You know what I mean, Eric? At 300 miles an hour. So do the math.
That's 150 miles. That's
okay, but it's not like he's in Central America. I mean,
well, true.
Right, 150 miles. I mean, okay, see, what do? You keep following his flight plan over and over and over again. So they give up. So his wife calls him up, and she says he wouldn't give up on you. And she makes them go back in. And they go back in for another 3 days because of his wife. Testimony from some of the first responders who went in from the Air Force Base. And finally, after 3 more days of searching, they declare him dead. They call up his brother, and they call up his wife, and they call up his family in Trumbull, Connecticut, and they pronounce him officially dead. They then issue a death certificate, the Air Force, saying he's dead. He's 23 years old, and he died in a crash, and that's the end of the story. The brother doesn't believe it. The wife is hopeful not to believe it. And the parents, who are deeply religious, never believed it, which is kind of part of the story that I wanted to get to. We'll get back to the parents in Trumbull and the brother, and the wife is really a fascinating part of the story. So when after the 7 days, he hasn't had any food. So he begins the descent down the cascade, down the mountains. And he finds eventually a small, tiny ranger station. And because this is not an uncivilized area, people do hike this, Eric. You know what I mean? In the summer. So he finds a ranger station. He breaks in, and inside the ranger station, and you'll be happy to hear this, is a canned ham and beans and some other stuff. And he has a feast. He just, I mean, imagine you get in there.
Inside joke on this one, folks.
Yeah. You get in there, there's a canned ham. He eats the ham, or not the whole ham, but he has the beans, and there's a cot. He sleeps in the cot, and he sleeps for like a day or two, really does. And he gets up, and you go, oh my God, thank God I found this cabin. This is great. And on the wall of the cabin is a topographical map. And he looks at the map for the first time, and it shows you are here, right? And
oh, wow.
And he looks, and you are here is surrounded by cascading mountains as far as the map goes, Eric. And he gets completely depressed, going, how the hell am I ever going to get out of here? And this is where he really has a low bottom, you know, and he realizes that even though he's got this cabin, nobody could find him. They've given up. He doesn't know he's been pronounced dead, but he doesn't see planes. Let me put it that way. So, I mean, he's got to figure I'm going to have to, this is like, I don't know, like day 14 or something, or day 13, you know what I mean? And he finds some rusty hooks and he gets some grub worms off of a tree, goes down to the creek and begins to fish. He catches a couple of fish. So food is there. I mean, he has some food, right? And one of the things he does is from the time he slides down that first cliff, he feels he's being followed the entire time. And he doesn't know if he's losing his freaking mind or what. He's having a spiritual revelation exactly at that time. He's starting to really, which I would do the same thing. I'd be praying to any God that ever existed before, or any God that may come the next day. I would make deals all day long. He's praying his ass off. And this thing, whatever it is following him. And from step one to the cabin, which he forgets about it, comes out, goes fishing, and he senses. And then when he's fishing, when he pulls the fish out, he turns to his left, and there it is, Eric. There's what's following him. That mountain lion has been stalking him since the time he landed above Doozy Basin, above Simpson Meadow, because they're very territorial and they're very hungry. So dig this. So he takes his gun, and I think he had like 5 bullets, or maybe he had a full thing. Maybe he had 6. But
some perspective, by the way. There's a human
hand
next to that.
Oh, wow.
Just so you think, oh, that's a cute kitty. No. And somebody mentioned a bear. No, mountain lions are on top of the bears.
Dude, I mean, mountain lions in California are just my arch nemesis. I mean, I keep going camping with his mountain lions all the time, and the ranger told me to keep my head up when I was riding my mountain bike because they jump out of the trees. I'm going, bro, I could barely ride the bike. I got to worry about this guy jumping out of a tree onto the back of my neck. So some bicycle store in Orange County began to sell custom-made bike helmets with eyes on the back of the helmet. And apparently it worked because they were jumping on the necks of women and children. And once they put the eyes on the back of the helmet, it froze them. It froze them because they thought they were being looked at. Brilliant idea, these custom-made bike helmets to stop mountain lion attacks. But he didn't have that, David Steeves. He had lost his helmet. He took his helmet off, and he didn't have all that stuff. But anyway, so he takes the gun and he makes a salt lick with a Y-shaped trap with the gun, with a tripwire, and he goes back into the cabin. And a couple of days later, the gun goes off. And he goes, holy shit. And he runs and he runs and he runs back to where he put the gun. I don't know how he rigged it. I once saw a description of how he rigged the gun. Might have one of those Baldwin triggers or something.
No, I wouldn't have a trigger.
Right. He had no trigger. He had the phony trigger. So the gun, he comes back, and it obviously, was tripped something. And there is a deer that's killed, by the gun. And the deer is being eaten by the mountain lion. And he just says, screw, the mountain lion got there first. Right. But Steeves goes completely animalistic and goes at the deer himself, scares away the mountain lion, and buries his face into the deer and begins eating it himself like an animal. I never forgot that. That's one of the craziest visuals I've ever seen in my life. Something like out of, some crazy survival movie. How did he run with his... Okay, keep in mind, this is 2.5 to 3 weeks later. Thank you for your question. Next question. So he gets the deer, pulls it away from the mountain lion, drags it back to the cabin, and he realizes at some point he's got to get out of this canyon. But he says goodbye to the cabin, gotta go, I can't stay here the whole time, begins his descent, gets to the bottom, and realizes there's nothing down there, and he's got to climb the next escarpment, Eric, to go over the next thing. In other words, it's a series of this, going down the Grand Canyon and climbing back up.
And no cabin necessarily on the other side. So he's got to leave whatever safety he has.
Right. He had to either give up the cabin or keep going. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, so he keeps going. And eventually, now keep in mind, this is now like day 40, day 35, somewhere in there. And he's still doing this. He's now lost 35 pounds. He's emaciated inside of his grimy, disgusting Air Force jumpsuit. He's got a stocking hat that he had in his pocket. He's got these pieces of like a type of beef jerky from the deer. You know what I mean? Pieces of ham, which you would love anyway, even though it was ham that was from a big ham in a can. He still took pieces of ham with him. And he had like 2 or 3 bullets left. Okay. And don't forget, the mountain lion is still stalking him. So, okay. Everybody thinks he's dead. No one knows where the plane was. They've given up on this guy. Nobody's looking for him anymore. And he's starting to, in the middle of the night, he starts to become deeply spiritual. And he begins to pray to God. He says, I've been a fuck up. I've screwed up, God. Please, let me get back to my family and my young daughter. And I'll never do what I did again. He starts making deals and praying his ass off. And he sees a shooting star go over his head. And he prays on that shooting star as it goes over his head to get me out of here. And that's the name of his plane, the Shooting Star. Which is kind of an amazing part of the story. And a couple of days later, as he descends into Cedar Grove and into Simpson Basin, he's sitting on a log, and up comes a party of 4 on horseback. And a woman says, "Hey, honey, how's it going?" It's a dentist and his wife and another couple with a guide, with a cowboy kind of old timer guide. And they just think he's sitting there resting or something. And he hasn't seen anybody. This is 54 days in the wilderness. And she says, "Hey, honey, how's it going?" And he goes, and they ride by. They just pass by. So the guide obviously gets off the horse and comes back. And he says, I've been in the wilderness. I mean, he's in an Air Force pilot suit. They take him back to the campsite where they cook him a giant meal. Again, this is a camping story, keep in mind. And this is
a fun, light one.
This is a lightweight camping story. They're literally toasting marshmallows. I swear to God.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah. So he's telling them the story around the fire, and they're going, it's really fascinating. There's a dentist and his wife from San Francisco. So the next day, he says, "Can you please?" It was so funny because he goes, "Can you please get me to a payphone?" And they go, "Okay, maybe tomorrow. We're camping." And they don't even want to take him into the, I swear to God, "We'll take you tomorrow. Why don't you have some more pancakes?" So they take him the next day. He gets on the payphone and he calls his brother. His brother's not home. And he calls his mother. And he doesn't want to scare them. That's why I called his brother. He doesn't want to scare his wife. So he didn't want to scare his mother. So he says, "Ma," he says, I am okay. I just came out of the wilderness. I'm alive and I'm fine." And she says, "I know. I've been praying every single minute and I never had a doubt." And it's really, really a heavy moment. And he tells his mother how he found God again during this tribulation in the woods. And she said, "I always knew that you would find God again." And he has this heavy moment with his mother on the phone. Then he calls his wife, who is living in the same town with her parents, her own parents. She moved in with them. She knows that he's dead, so she enrolls in college and has a daughter that she's got to raise and starts going to college to try to become a single mom. I mean, keep in mind, Eric, this is 2 months that she got a death certificate from the Air Force. So she can't believe the guy's alive. Okay. Then they send an Air Force vehicle to pick him up at Cedar Grove campsite, which is where I go all the time. It's the campsite which is at the base of all this in Simpson Meadow. Beautiful, beautiful campsite. Raging rivers going through it. Last time I was there, a boxer dog bit my hand. I barely survived.
Better than the mountain lion.
Yeah, no, I was surprised by the boxer. Really, I was really angry with that dog. But it hit the crap out of my hand, like right here. And then the woman quickly packed up and left. It was really nice of her. Really a class act. Anyway, that's a separate story. So the Air Force takes him back to the base. They drive him in the car back to the base, still wearing his outfit. And tells him what happened. And, oh, yeah, here's some pictures. The middle one is what we're talking about. The lower right-hand corner is his wife with his daughter. The upper two is after he survives because he didn't have a beard going in. That's his
Yeah.
wife in the top middle one there.
You can see how
Meeting with,
thin he is right here in the
yeah,
bottom, where
yeah. This is they
getting
finally gave him
interviewed.
his uniform back. But yeah, the one on the bottom is the reporters who literally come there, and he's not even recovered yet. I swear to God, he's not even seen medical authorities to take care of him, and the reporters are all over him with the story. And he politely starts telling them the story. Yeah, look at this guy. I mean, this is ridiculous. And this is like literally down the,
PTSD almost.
oh, dude. I mean, come on. Anyway, the Air Force trots him out to have a full-fledged press conference the next morning. He sleeps that night at the Air Force Base in a cot. Again, no medical checkup, no nothing. They debrief him for about an hour, tells him what happened. Comes out, the PR guy says, okay, this is Lieutenant David Steeves, and it's just on. Full-blown, crazy press conference where he tells him what happened. Okay. He then becomes a national hero, and I mean a national hero. He goes on every television show. He's on Art Linkletter's show. He's on You Bet Your Life. He's on The Tonight Show. He is everywhere on media, and they just keep writing this. And keep in mind, this is the height of the Cold War, 1957. They're looking for stories to promote. I don't really blame the Air Force for wanting to promote this heroic thing.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
obviously, this is a gift from God to the Air Force.
This is what our pilots are made of. I mean, you know,
right.
Writes itself.
Right.
And
Except
every little boy wanting to be
Yes.
recruited, you know, it's like, wow,
yes,
I
yeah.
could be
So
like him.
he literally gets a ticker tape parade. He's on every TV show, and he's approached. There's a lot of media frenzy to get his life story. So the Saturday Evening Post, which was a big publication back then, offers him $10,000 for his life story, which was the equivalent of about $100,000 or $90,000 in today's money, right? He gets movie offers. They're going to have a movie on his life. The Saturday Evening Post is putting together a contract to pay him. So the reporter shows up, and yeah, this is pretty early on when he first comes back. Yeah, his wife's looking at him pretty suspiciously. It says August 14th, 1957. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that's less than a month later. Yeah, struggle of survival. That's a great shot because he looks like a ghost there, but he's still starting to recover. And they said, why don't you kiss him? And she said, I can't find his lips. It was a great line. Anyway, it turns out there's more to this story than meets the eye, just about this couple for a second. And I'm going to tell you this part of the story for the ladies who are out there. This is now ladies' hour. We're going to get into women drink for free right now in the bars for this story. The couple got married, and there was some marital discourse. First, he wanted a boy. And when she gave birth to a girl, he literally broke down crying in the delivery room, which is a little shocking. He, of course, later got over it and, loves his daughter and everything else. But at first, he was so in belief that he was going to have a boy that he started crying, which was not a good sign. So it turns out that when he was going to San Francisco, he had a mistress in San Francisco. And he told her before he had the crash about the mistress. And she said, I want you to get rid of her. And he said he would. And he said, I want to focus on our marriage and the child. And he said he would get rid of her the next time he went to San Francisco, which was this trip. She's in Mobile, Alabama, at Clark Air Force Base. And here he is. Yeah, look, he kind of fills in that jacket, but she was beautiful. This is obviously the wife, Rita. So while he was dead, quote unquote, Rita gets a letter in the mail from the mistress saying, I am the mistress of your husband, another young girl. Flips out. She said it screwed up her grieving process so badly that she didn't know what was going on anymore because the guy in her mind is dead. Now she gets a letter from his mistress saying, I love him. He's mine, or whatever the letter said. I'm not sure what that letter said. But he had promised to get rid of her and he didn't. So now when he meets his wife again after the survival, his wife is infuriated and wants to get a divorce because he never got rid of her, and he said he would. And he promises that he's had a spiritual awakening during this trial and tribulation, and that he's going to focus on the marriage. So she's half in and half out. She's infuriated but happy he's alive. She is angry because he didn't get rid of the mistress. He now promises again he's going to get rid of the mistress, and they're not having a good time as a couple.
In this caption, it even says that she's going to divorce him.
Oh, okay. So this story, right? Okay. So because of the divorce, it all of a sudden gives off an odor to the media that something is wrong rotten in the state of Denmark in terms of this story. Because why would this woman want to divorce this American hero? What is it that he did? And they don't know this. They just know that she wants to get a divorce. So they begin to snoop around. So the guy from the Saturday Evening Post goes up and interviews him in the cabin that he was in, goes back to the cabin with the guy. And he says, why did you know that there was a fire that night before you came down around the cabin? And why didn't you start a fire? Even if you didn't know there was a fire, the fire may have signaled someone, Eric. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why didn't he start a fire? So his answer was, I didn't start a fire because I thought it would burn the cabin to the ground. Like, you can't control the fire. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right. And I didn't start the fire because it could, you know how fires are up there. It could spread like the entire mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He said, I didn't start the fire, and I was afraid if I did, it would burn the cabin to the ground. That was his answer. And it turns out that was a lie. He did start the fire.
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And that turned the story around.
Oh, boy.
He was embarrassed, and he lied. And he did start the fire that burns itself out, right? But right. He admitted that he lied. And the guy said to him, if you're lying about this, what else are you lying about? And all of a sudden, the entire story that I just told you begins to unravel. He goes from being an American hero overnight to a womanizing liar who now is questioned by the Air Force as to what happened to his plane. And rumors begin to circulate in the press that he flew the plane to Mexico and sold it to the commies. And all of a sudden, he becomes the biggest enemy of the United States. That they begin to accuse him of making up the entire thing as a media hoax. And this is one of the first examples, compared to today, that's why it's relevant, of the media becoming a mob and going after a guy saying that he created an entire hoax of a story and actually sold the plane to the commies in Mexico and flew the jet across the border past your future house in Tucson, Eric, where you will be living in about 15 years, into Mexico and sold it to communists. He says, no, I didn't do that. My story is true. The Rangers in the story back him up. The Rangers the park rangers say, look, I don't know what you're talking about. There's traces of him everywhere. This story is somehow, you know, I don't know what he did with the plane, but they begin to doubt his entire story. He is released from the Air Force and his story goes into the toilet. They rescind the $10,000 offer for his story from Saturday Evening Post. The movie deals go away and he becomes persona non grata.
Wow. That's a hell of a up and down. All this and he's still 23 or 24? Good Lord.
But we're not done yet, Hunley.
Okay.
We're not done yet. This is a low ebb in the story, but
yeah, I think
it's a low ebb.
Loses the wife, loses his career, loses his reputation.
Right?
Not great. Somebody sees the purple cup though, so that's uplifting.
Okay, yeah. I had to go back to the purple cup because now the story really gets crazy. I need what's in the purple cup sometimes in these stories to keep me going as a man. So anyway, so at this point, he keeps flying over and over and over the high Sierras looking for wreckage of his own plane to try to vindicate himself. And he finally doesn't find it, and he moves to Idaho, where he begins to fly privately, experimental planes. I take that back, not jets. Ultralight, the pre-runner to an ultralight, and all kinds of weird private planes they're trying to build. And he, in 1965, at the age of 31, crashes into the ground and crashes and dies.
And he is how old?
31.
31.
In 1965. God. Yeah.
Think about that. That's a hell of a life.
Okay. So at that point, he had remarried. I don't know if you have a picture of his new wife.
I do.
At some point, actually found a photo of the new wife, but
I did, and yeah, we got.
Yeah, that was his second wife,
and that's him probably not that long before he died.
Yeah, he might be 30. He might be 30 here, and it looks like dude. He looks like Errol Flynn, or maybe with the beard, maybe even Ben Affleck for the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard a rumor that he could resemble somebody like that.
Oh, that's a good match. Why don't we use Ben Affleck for the movie? That might work. Okay, so it turns out that
he actually looks the same age too. And Ben Affleck's probably into his 40s.
He's in his 40s here, but he's 20. Yeah. He's 23.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Either Ben Affleck's had work, or he's aged incredibly from his dilemma.
Maybe,
or maybe both.
Wow.
Amazing. So okay, so dig this. So Freedom of Information Act documents that have recently surfaced, heavily redacted, showed that somebody in the Air Force didn't believe him, and that it was a higher up, and that's how the fire started. And the media guy, like I mentioned, the guy from the Saturday Evening Post didn't believe him, and that's how that started in the media. And because of the Cold War, these two things intertwined to destroy him. And the guys in his own regiment said they would kill him if they'd ever got their hands on him. And I mean, just really dark stuff. I mean, really, really.
By the way, the chat's rebelling. They do not like Ben Affleck.
So no, I knew they would. I knew
they're saying Bradley Cooper. So we'll have to rethink your casting decision.
Keep in mind, this was Ben Affleck in 1998. So when this was supposed to be.
It's more tolerable then.
Right. This was early Ben Affleck. I know nobody likes him now, but try to go back. I know it's impossible in time. Try to imagine the late 90s Ben Affleck. But we'll go with Bradley Cooper. I mean, obviously Cooper's more bankable than Affleck, so I'll go with Cooper.
Yeah, what about
who's this
Cooper
now? Only. Okay, we got that's it. We're not going past Cooper.
J-Mims settled this.
Honey, get me Cooper on the phone. Let's get his agent. Okay, so dig this. So in these documents that are heavily redacted, you see that they're going to throw this guy under the bus. I don't know what became of the daughter, actually. That's a good question.
Thank you there, David.
Yeah, but I've always thought about that, but I never really cared about the daughter that much.
There's a whole Steeves legacy site, though. I didn't look any deeper on it, so maybe his daughter's on it, because I think he had other historical family figures on that. If I remember, I'll try to post a link in locals. I did dig that up when I was looking.
Yeah, the brother was alive for a long time. They had a funeral for him back in Connecticut. They shipped the body back there from Idaho. And so when he does do this, which I'm going to tell you what happened next, in 1977, which is now 12 years after he dies, the Boy Scouts are camping at Cedar Grove campsite. And the Boy Scouts in a creek find the identification strip from the tail that says 52-9232A. This is some other wreckage, but that's roughly where they found it. And the tail is found, and then further up the creek, guess what they find? The canopy bubble from his plane in 1977. So they found the tail number of his plane, the metal strip, and they found the canopy bubble that had ejected. And that is taken in by the Air Force, who now realize they've made an egregious error and send a letter of apology to the ex-wife, the widow and the brother and the parents apologizing for destroying the guy's life, that the whole story was true the entire time. And they believe what happened to the plane was it was on automatic pilot. One guy explained it pretty clearly. Apparently the fuel tank is behind the seat, and that particular model of plane may have leaked fumes. Some spark happened and the fumes ignited inside the canopy. Okay. But it was on autopilot. So the plane kept going without him. He ejects, the plane keeps going while smoke and whatever, and eventually crashes into one of the thousands of glacial lakes, which is why there was no wreckage. And that's why they couldn't find it. And it's only a 40-foot craft, Eric, so it may have plunged to the bottom of one of these lakes. What you saw there was wreckage from other planes. I was up there. There's wreckage from all kinds of crap up there. I
looked it up. That area is literally like a Bermuda Triangle for planes.
Yeah. I found all kinds of stuff. I said, hey, I found it. It was nothing.
Thank you, Winston, is my spirit animal.
Winston's spirit animal. Okay, book and coffee fund.
Thank you very much.
I need to live to 190 to finish them all. There's a lot of peace in knowing you have them, even though you haven't finished them. Like I'm reading like 32 books. I'm reading like 32 books at once. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So the letter goes out. The family is vindicated. And today, I mean, he is remembered as one of the greatest Air Force survival stories in American history.
Wow. Crazy. But he didn't get to live to see himself vindicated, which, that has to.
Well, he knew what he did. His family knew what he did. His friends knew what he did. Everybody close to him knew what he did. I mean, in the Cold War and into the early era, I mean, his career was destroyed. He wanted to be a Top Gun pilot. He wanted to serve his country. He wanted to go to Vietnam. He wanted to be a fighter pilot. It was their loss for not using the guy. You know what I mean? I mean, they clearly, the same way as they wanted to make him into a hero for propaganda reasons, they wanted to make him into a demon for propaganda reasons. The whole story was a cock and bull story, and they knew it, the Air Force.
Somebody agreed with you about his first wife.
Oh God, I love her. Thank you. Yeah, I really love his first wife. But I think there was so much damage in the marriage that he was going to Vegas and gambling, and they knew this, the Air Force. I mean, there was rumors that he was into the mob. There was rumors that he had gambling debts, that he had a phony life insurance policy, that he wanted himself pronounced dead so his wife could collect on it. They were and the media just kept fueling these stories, Eric. You could go back and look at I have a lot of the newspaper clippings from the time, because a lot of them are out of the Fresno.
Oh yeah, I'll be putting those up in Locals, by the way.
Right. Did I give you some of those?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll be putting them up
there's
after.
A lot of newspapers in Vegas and the Fresno Bee and that area that covered the story really well at the time. And, they turned on him like he was Fidel Castro, bro. I mean, with no evidence whatsoever. And his brother just said, this is preposterous. What do they do? Take it piece by piece across the Mexican border? And keep in mind.
Well, I'd be like, why would you park yourself back there when you're done? I mean, those are the parts that don't make sense. It's like, okay, so if you're going to lose a jet, well, maybe you would turn up closer to Tucson or closer to Phoenix, or say that you got routed or whatever the hell.
No, keep in mind, the T-33 is obsolete by this time. If you went to the Russians with a T-33 trainer, they would just go, what do we need this for? I mean, this is ridiculous. There were plenty of wreckages of the P-80 in the Korean War. This was a trainer version, which was basically obsolete in 1957 by the time of the crash. I mean, you're not bringing an F-115 fighter jet into North Korea. Anyway, the stories were so crazy that they didn't make any sense. Just like today, Eric, just like the media crazy crap of today, which is why I wanted to get this story out, because the media did then what they're doing today to various people. And they made this story and they killed this story in the same breath. The Air Force didn't help, but then again, the same thing today with our woke military. I mean, you're a big fan of the Air Force, right, Eric?
Yeah. Hey, Hey, you know what? They pay my wife some salary.
Oh,
So
that's right. That's right. I forgot. I forgot.
I've got a soft spot for the softies in the Air Force.
Yeah, and they are softies, not the band, the softies. You're talking about the woke Air Force people.
Yep. And okay, Gavin saying yes. Oh, yeah. Let me pull up his chat to bury the shirt when I'm showing it. So
That's
yes,
smart.
we do have merch, and it in the description. You can check that out. There's a link, and there are shirts. There's cups. There's like thermal cups. I think there's beanies. It's getting cold.
There's
All
beanies.
kinds of things with the American Untold Stories. So
Well, let
definitely
me
check
ask
it
you
out.
something. Is this a great America's Untold Story or not? This is an American. This is
Absolutely.
a story, and it's
Yes.
untold. I mean, this is the type of stuff I want to do. You know what I mean? These
That's
kinds
what
of
we're doing.
stories. Right, but I mean, they're heroic. They're patriotic. There's a religious element to this. There's a spiritual element to it that I like. The fact that he found God again while he was up in the mountains it really speaks to me a lot. That his mother never believed that he would not come out of there alive. I mean, there's so many great elements, and it's a time when we really need stories like this, which is why I wanted to get involved with you in the first place to do this, to tell these stories. I mean, I camp there. I mean, that's my closest connection.
Well, this is probably one of the most Americana patriotic stories I can think of out of the pantheon that you've come up with. I mean, this is way up there.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for this. I love this story so much because it really speaks to the best and the brightest, and this kid who's trying to do the right thing and follow in his father's footsteps. From the greatest generation, and he gets stepped on in this Red Scare, and okay.
And Aaron concurs. He's saying the audience should decide.
Aaron Taylor's going to decide.
Well, the audience should decide, and he says this. Okay, good.
No, I'm just saying for me personally, you can do
good.
whatever you want out there. I'm just saying for me, I've tried to make this into a movie to no avail in Hollywood. This is a side story for 15 years. That's why I'm telling you this story. I tried to get this movie made, and people looked at me like I was from another planet because of the leftist bent in Hollywood. That's one of the reasons I wanted to tell this story.
Maybe if you could find the treatment or something that can go up on locals sometime.
Okay, yeah, put the treatment up there. Yeah, that'll be helpful.
Okay.
It's called Shooting Star, the name of the movie. And these guys looked at me like, yeah, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? But, I mean, no, I swear to God.
They're not known for their heroics. You need to get Gary Sinise on board or something. No, he's got the right height.
I thought this audience might like it. I think when the time I pitched it, Ben Affleck might have been perceived as a different character than he is today. But that's why I mentioned Ben Affleck. But she's right. Bradley Cooper would be much better today, or even that Jeremy Renner. That guy I like a lot too, right?
Yeah. From Avengers, like the bow and arrow guy, Hawkeye. Is that Jeremy Renner?
No, Jeremy, who was in Kill the Messenger. The story of the journalist who committed suicide from the.
Yeah, I think that's him. Same guy, isn't it?
What did I say?
think he's in the Avengers too.
Oh, right. Yeah, good point. Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was going for the big movie.
Right. I was thinking the little movie. I was thinking the little. I always think little. I always think like a little movie. But I just, it's just so great because the movie opens with the Boy Scouts, the way I've got it structured, with the Boy Scouts finding that tail number. And then we flash back to 1957 and you see the tail number on the plane taking off. That's the way
that's a good point. Daily Wire, or, I was thinking this would be a Clint Eastwood project, if I can, as an example, but.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, but things have changed. I mean, I haven't pitched this story
Well, everybody share with your friends because some podcasts and stuff are being made into movies. And that's kind of part why we're doing this is to get the stories out there.
We want to.
Mark has so many of them and they're all kind of locked away and they need to get out. People need to hear them.
President Pierce empowered me. Oh, right. Really? Well, he supported President Pierce. I mean, who would support President Pierce? Lynn Gibson became a YouTube member. Who was President Pierce? What did
Franklin Pierce was
Franklin Pierce.
Yeah, if I recall, he was the one-term president, one of the most effective in history.
Is that true?
Yeah, I'm not completely certain, but I think it is him. He did one term, made a bunch of campaign promises, did them all, and said,
then got out.
Yep, done. Bye.
Interesting.
Did not bother, and it was a choice. He didn't want to run for re-election. He was like, okay, I did everything I wanted to do. Goodbye.
We should make it one term anyway. You know what I mean? Just do your thing, get out. Who's next? Have it a revolving door.
Yeah, we could lock him to the promises.
Right. This 2-term thing is getting to be a pain in the ass.
especially if you're on the bad end of it.
Right, right. Everyone, half the country seems to be on the bad end of it every 4 years.
Ugh,
But
no
yeah, I don't
kidding.
know what happened to the daughter. It's just one of the greatest heroic stories I've ever heard of a survival story. I mean, obviously there are incredible stories in Vietnam, incredible war stories, incredible stories of survival in battle. This was a different kind of story. And I just thought that the audience here would enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, please share with your friends. I mean, seriously, share with your friends. I think a lot of people enjoy it. This is a good one to go wide. So, on to what's next. We're going to be getting back to releasing part 3 of the CIA. So we get dark again.
Oh, that's dark. That's dark.
So we got a little up and down. So
That's dark.
we're really dark off 1 and 2, and then we're uplifting everybody, sort of, even though it's there's a sadness to this, but nostalgia. And tomorrow I will release, and it's a re-upload. I'm going to say here to explain to everybody why. I know it's kind of like, why are you re-uploading? I'm re-uploading because this channel was another channel. Then it got taken out by a copyrights troll.
What?
We wanted to keep stories going. It would take a month to prevail over it, which it did. It took almost a month. So we said, oh, hell with it. The channel was 3 weeks old. We wanted to get content out. So we just said, we'll start over. We did. Built this all the way back up from 0 again to where it is now. And there were some episodes on the other channel that are still important to us. The Sirhan trilogy, the CIA trilogy. These are all really, really important to us to get out there. So that is why I've re-uploaded them. And I'm re-uploading as a premiere because many people here did not get a chance to see it the first time. And these are really good shows.
You can comment in the comment section, right?
Well, so we can hang out in the chat, and it gives us a rare opportunity. Like sometimes in the chat here, I am not able to, communicate as well. Mark's obviously busy telling the story, so it's more difficult to interact with the chat. So we get a chance to literally talk to the chat full time during it, because we've actually seen it before. We know what's going to happen, and we will do that in the chat. So that's the idea. If Mark can make it cool, I will try to always be in the chat. When I do a re-upload, I don't think we have as many more. We may do individual episodes uploaded if they're smaller or something.
Right.
But that is the reason and the purpose behind it. And
we're also going to do additional episodes of these different episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's going to be a live real Sirhan at some point. There's going to be another new.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Follow-ups or continuations or, more. CIA, I guarantee, is going to come up again. We've got a trilogy of LBJ coming up.
We got all the JFK characters to do. I mean,
and some of those may be uploads, because we may, spend the time to record them and then upload. And again, when we do it, we do it as a premiere. Hang out in the chat. So it's to communicate, but it's also for YouTube, because if everybody's watching with us and communicating, it tells YouTube, hey, people like this, and it starts showing it to more people.
They do.
So there's a lot of strategy involved as well. But that's the reason, if people are interested. I know it's kind of talking shop. Next up, we have, after the CIA, we're going to do something with Baldwin. We have not settled what we're going to do, because things continue to happen. So between now and Friday, something may happen. It may change our plans. So we have a plan in mind, but that could change.
Right.
We do plan to do something on Friday, something about Baldwin. And
I do want to do the history of the MTV magazine.
We
were talking about that, how I created MTV magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And this.
Thank you, Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Dots and tentacles.
Everybody watch out for these tentacles. So, I mean, we have so many stories down the road that we have to get to. And this is just some of it. I mean, there's a lot of domestic stories I want to do. There's a lot of political stories I want to do. Some of them are movie-like, some of them are not. This one I always wanted to see as a film, but the others, who knows? I mean, the RFK.
Right, and some of them are biographies. Like Mort Saul, we have Lord Buckley coming up.
Lenny
Bob
Bruce,
Dylan,
Bob Dylan, Lenny. The Abby Hoffman thing was a movie.
Yeah.
That Oliver and I were going to make. That's an interesting story. I mean, they're all crazy stories. I mean, It's just, they come from different angles, different time periods. So you got to take them with a grain of salt. But if you want to follow me at Lord Buckley, I just got on Getter, whatever Getter is.
Oh yeah, we're both on Getter. So I mean,
Lord Buckley, a Getter, and now
if you
I'm at
follow
Lord
us and
Buckley on
interact,
both.
maybe we'll do more. I actually did post this one on Getter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, Mark would see it, but I don't think he follows me yet.
I'm not following you yet. I just got on there today. I mean, I'm following Rogan. That's why I got on there.
Yeah, dude, I was following you immediately, dude. I expect for
right.
first thing I should be high priority there.
Okay, so I'm at Lord Buckley. If you want to PayPal me, then things down below. We're also on Venmo, right, Eric?
We have PayPal, we have Venmo. Everything is in the description.
Okay. Anything helps for the book fund or the coffee fund. It doesn't matter.
Sure, I'll be putting a crypto wallet there even later. I'll take anything, and whatever.
Right, crypto. Wow, we're going crazy.
Well, gee, let me see. People who talk about the CIA and crypto.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe we can tolerate it.
Yeah. So you could do that, or you could. How do you become a locals member, Eric? Can't they do that too?
Absolutely. That's a great way to do everything, and that's unstructured.locals.com. Also in the description. Please consider coming by. I'll be uploading some of the stuff today, the treatment, some of the newspaper clips.
That's good.
Later this evening. Just a little.
Like stuff. I said, we're still waiting on the Sirhan parole ruling.
Yes.
And then we're going to try to do.
And Elliott Smith.
Elliott Smith.
We promise. When he gets back to California, we will.
Yeah, I got to get home. I don't have all my stuff here. I'm in my other hideaway. I don't.
Well, we're having a guest too, so you can't drag.
Yeah, I don't. I don't have all my files. I need the files. That's what I need, the secret files and the books. And we're going to be doing LBJ, which is a 3-parter. The Oswald to be a 3-parter. So you're going to get into these multiple part ones that we have.
Well, we're coming into, we're in January now. So I can tell you definitively that 2 of these will be your toga party.
Oh, I forgot the toga party.
How I got Tuesday, we do Tuesday. So that's going to be a Mardi Gras episode. But we will also be doing a President's Day episode about the conspiracy to kill President Lincoln.
Oh, I got to look that up. I mean, I know that stuff pretty well. I mean,
well, you should be back in California.
When I get home, I'm gonna look it up. But my favorite character is Mary Surratt's son, who doesn't get hung and escapes to Europe, and then to Canada, comes back to the United States years later. This is just a teaser. Super sticker. Oh, Heather. Mary Surratt's son, I just want to tease that out, who is not hung as one of the conspirators. And if you ever want to have fun, Angela Davis and her buddies, I don't know. It kind of makes its own sauce, Angela Davis. I don't want to give them any more heat. But the Lincoln thing, anyone who says that John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln, just tell them, why did they hang all those people in the prison yard if it wasn't a conspiracy to kill the president? But I did want to focus on Dr. Mudd, because we mentioned
definitely
Philip Mudd the other day, and Dr. Mudd is the one who said John Wilkes Booth's ankle when he broke his ankle leaping from the balcony in Ford's Theater. So we will get into that and some of the conspiratorial aspects of the Lincoln assassination to celebrate his birthday, Eric.
So at a minimum, if you're not subscribed, I don't know what's wrong. There's so much coming.
There's something seriously wrong with you at this point. You may want to introspectively go on a retreat and look at yourself, internally, and try to see why you're not a member.
And until next time, thank you much.